What's good, family? You already know what time it is. You tuned in to Delete News, where the shine is divine and the grind is designed. We talk Black brilliance from the block to the boardroom, how our people been innovating since before they gave us credit for it. We talk billionaire energy, mind mastery, and walking with purpose, because real power ain't just money, it's discipline, it's vision, and sometimes it's saying, nah, even when you could say, yeah, you feel me? So if you're about that legacy talk, that self-control over self-destruction, and leading with Black excellence in motion, go ahead and hit that subscribe. 'Cause this is where we cook wisdom with flavor. Let's get into it.
What I've done is I've created a technology that allows you to condense that moisture out of the air the same way that you take a glass in the middle of the summertime and you put that cold glass, that cold bottle of Coke on the table, and that bottle of Coke just continues to sweat, right?
Yes.
Well, with that picture that you see of the machine right there pushing that water out, that machine does that using mechanical techniques that I've created over the years to efficiently pull that moisture out of the air with a lower energy consumption than is needed to pull it out of the ground. So basically, that box that you see in that picture, you can sit it right here, and everybody in this park in Chicago could drink from that water for the next forever.
Now, this box that we are looking at, it's solar powered, I would imagine?
Absolutely. It's solar powered, but also what I did was the big box that you see, I put on there a generator. So it's got its own internal generator in case you don't have solar power. So basically, you could take that box anywhere, you could drop it where you need it in the world, and you could turn it on, and you can produce water.
The 62 richest people in the world, most of whom are Americans, not all Americans, but most of whom are U.S. citizens. The 62 richest people together have more wealth than the bottom half of the population of this planet. Roughly 3.5 billion people. That's beyond obscene. I don't know. I don't have an adjective that captures this, but I can describe what it means. If you look at all the statistics of the World Health Organizations, the bottom half of our population are people who die way earlier than they need to. Why? Because their diets are no good, or they don't have enough food in the first place, or they can't get to a clinic to have little problems that are easily solved by modern medical methods taken care of. It's unspeakable what happens to the lower half. If we took half the wealth of the richest, and they would still be the richest, and made it available to the bottom half, it would transform their lives, literally. Now, there's no moral or ethical justification for this situation.
I went 17 months with no sex. 17 months.
Interesting.
I said, I'm done, because that was my obsession. There was a party that would happen in Vegas. It was called Pimps and Hoes. 17,000 people.
What's the name of the party?
You can Google it. You'll see it was the biggest party that would put in Vegas. I didn't grow up in an environment where we're going to church and all this other stuff. That came at 25 when I became born again. But up until then, I'm the guy that's going to Vegas every other weekend. I'm the guy that in the Army is drinking a small bottle of tequila every weekend with my friends on the way to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm that guy. I'm the guy that goes to Panama City to party at Club La Villa and Spinnakers. I went to Dublin's. I went to, Miyagi's, Palace, Arena. I can give you Century Club, Garden of Eden. This is Key Club. This is this guy. Yeah. I was that guy that's partying constantly, trying to go to new markets. And then one day, I meet a guy that he said 3 years he went without sex and he became a millionaire. I'm like, damn, that's a long time. Holy freaking. And I remember one day I'm with my girl.
3 years.
I'm with my girl. She's in Hollywood. She's an actress. She's beautiful. She does very well for herself right now. She dresses all the major names. Beyonce, Lady Gaga. She runs one of the biggest PR firms in Hollywood, dresses all these girls. Anyways, we're together. We're in the car, expedition. I says, I want to tell you something here. What's that? We've been together for 2.5 years. I want to know if we should get married or not, because we're at that phase. And she says, what are you trying to say? I said, look, I love when we have sex. It's freaking awesome. I have a lot of fun with you. But I want us to go without it for a month to see what happens, to see if this relationship is deeper than just what we're doing in the backseat of this expedition. And she says, you sure? I said, yeah. She says, is there another girl in your life? I said, I promise I got no. I said, she says, no, I know there's. I said, I'm telling you, I don't have another girl. It's you. But let's go 1 month. It's just very weird. So I'm talking to her outside of her apartment. She says, you mean to tell me you want me to go inside right now? I said, yeah. She goes inside. Next day, it's Saturday, I pick her up, we go to movies. End up the movies, 11:15. We're parked in Van Nuys. What do you want to do? I got to drop you off. This is 2 days. No sex. At the peak testosterone level. I'm on fire right now.
You got 28 days left.
She comes the next week. Birthday suit. Apartment. No sex. A week later, we're sitting in the car. We don't have anything to talk about. We don't have nothing to talk about. Then I told her, I said, we got to go to church. She said, I'm not going to church. What's happened to you? I said, dude, I said, nothing's happened to me. I just don't think if you and I are going to get married, we can make it work. We need a manual. We need something to help us out. No, I'm not going to church. Something's going on with you. She went to church one time. She thought it was very weird. I thought it was very weird. That church was weird. And then, anyways, long story short, a couple weeks later, she's like, this is not working out. And we broke up. Okay, and the relationship was done. Very painful, by the way, when that happened. So we loved each other, but it was done. She moved on. We moved on, and later on, my wife and her are friends. They'll talk. It's a very interesting relation. But the point is this: the point is, like, I wanted substance, and I wanted to find out what was my motivator. When I did that with the girl, and I went 17 months. During that 17 months, if you want to find the level of motivation that I got, I was on fire with work and dreams. I wanted my dad to work. I was sick and tired of him working at this 99-cent store in Inglewood, California. I wanted my sister to go on her honeymoon. I wanted my dad to go to Hawaii. I wanted me to have a life, man. I wanted to go out there and win. I wanted to make the David family proud. And 17 months later, I started making the kind of money I've never made before. And then during that 17 months, I realized how much I can control my obsession and habits, because I have an obsessive personality. That gave me confidence to know I can channel that obsession into other areas of my life. It's crazy when I tell these types of stories, people are like, yeah, what about this, what about that? If you talk to this girl and she told you the story, she'd probably give you more details of this, and she would say it was so weird when we were going through it. That's exactly what I did. And, the rest is history. By the way, I didn't tell you it was easy.
Yeah.
I don't tell you I walk on water. I got a lot of skeletons. I got vices just like everybody else. I have flaws. I have insecurities. I have fears just like everybody else. But I'm 44, man. When I look at my hands like this, I look young like this. I look 44 at this side of my hand. This side doesn't lie to you. This side lies to you. 44 is different than 24, different than 34. And life's been very interesting so far. So I'm excited about the next, hopefully, 44 years.
Not a single African country has any currency that is worth talking about. You leave Ghana with your cedi and pesawa, you go to Senegal, is as good as pepper. I came with my shilling here, it is useless, it can buy me nothing. I go to Angola and I have my kwanza, it is useless. The trick lies in political reawakening so that we are able to see things differently. That is why China is capable of assembling Africans, heads of states in Beijing, and they all rush there. The 54 of them, all of them will go there. China does that. If today the President of the United States of America wanted to assemble African leaders, he only had to do this, and they will all rush to Washington. Last month, the Chinese Prime Minister assembled 35 African heads of states in Nairobi, Kenya, and they all went there because we are political lightweights. We have no presence in the Security Council of the United Nations. When there is a meeting of the G8, occasionally they invite 1 or 2 African leaders just as a way of humoring them, and they are kept mostly in some waiting room When the real issues are being discussed, they'll never be there. Then they are invited when there is a photo opportunity, and if you look very keenly, they'll stand at the back. The real leaders stand in front. When there is the G20, the same thing is done. In other words, until the day that we are able to demonstrate that we have become politically of age, nobody is going to respect us.
So I didn't go and watch Wakanda Forever. And a lot of people look at me and say, wait a minute, you're black. You have to go and watch Wakanda Forever. The truth is, I didn't like Black Panther. I did go and see that, but I had a lot of issues with the movie. And I'm going to explain to you why I didn't like it and why I believe it actually, the first film anyway, did more harm than good to black people. Pay attention. When you look at white heroes, they tend to fight the enemy of the West at that given time. So Superman was created in 1933 and his enemy was the Germans, the Nazis. Wonder Woman was also the Nazis. Captain America also fought the Nazis. Iron Man fought a proxy for Al-Qaeda or Islamic terrorists. Now, the X-Men was a little bit different. They were actually an allegory for civil rights, but without the heroes actually being black. Because a lot of people say that Professor X and Magneto were basically Professor X is MLK and Magneto is Malcolm X in that universe. But it was just sort of weird that they used that as a template, but the actual heroes themselves weren't black. Black Panther is supposed to be an African hero, but he wasn't fighting the enemies of Africa. Portuguese slavers, British colonizers, American slavers, Belgians in the Congo, the French in West Africa, the Dutch in South Africa, Western multinational corporations that take our resources for peanuts. Black Panther avoided all the natural enemies of black and African people, and instead Wakandans were fighting each other. Wakanda is meant to be the most technologically advanced country in the world, but instead of helping the impoverished African nations next to them, they hid themselves because they didn't want to have to change their way of life. When Nakia went to save the kidnapped girls, which was an allegory for the kidnapped Nigerian girls, she was reprimanded by Chala. Now, my question is, why are you hiding to help fellow Africans? When Superman or X-Men or any of these other heroes help people, they do it in broad daylight and they act as a deterrent to the bad guys, basically like, hey, we're here to protect these people, so if you come, you're gonna have to deal with us. But when black people have a hero, they hide. Why exactly isn't Nakia allowed to help Africans openly? Wakanda has medical tech that can cure a spinal injury in 24 hours. Which Shuri does for the CIA agent, that Ross dude. But you guys can't help Africa eradicate typhoid, HIV, sickle cell, yellow fever, and the multitude of other diseases that are killing millions of Africans for the decades that we've been dealing with. You guys have all seen the UNICEF, the Red Cross commercials, and all these things. You're seeing those images being pumped out about black African people, but we have an African hero who his country have this tech, and you're not going to cure those diseases forever? Very, very strange. Wakanda sends spies to America, but when the spy tries to help black people by giving them weapons to fight oppression, the Wakandan king kills it. When the US or UK send spies to Africa, they do it to affect regime change, leverage for resources, and basically give their nation an advantage. Let me give you an example. James Bond. James Bond is a spy. James Bond in every movie goes into all of these countries and all these places, and his basic focus is the Queen, who is not the Queen anymore, obviously it's not the King, but basically the Britain, the UK, and basically working in the interest of protecting the UK. He kills people, for goodness sake. He has a license to kill. That's what 007 means. But when Wakanda have spies, they can't do anything. That's the point of spies. But the Wakandan spies, the black spies, they are supposed to just spy. Killmonger gets created out of this situation, and rightly he hates Wakanda. He's the only character focused solely on black people, and he gets depicted as a murderous terrorist. It's almost like they made him Malcolm X and Chala MLK, then pushed for the Chala pacifist MLK ideology as the preferable option to the proactive ideology of the radical Killmonger. Like, that's basically what I was seeing. The moment Killmonger's butt touched the Wakandan throne, he was riding for black people. And very quickly, he was killed, but not before he gives one of the best speeches you'll ever hear. So anyway, that's actually It's worth watching the movie just to see Killmonger's speech before he dies. It's as if they put all the positive ideas of black empowerment into him so they could kill him and thus symbolically kill the ideas that he had, essentially telling black people that this is not how you get ahead. You get ahead by being like Shala. Then, instead of Wakanda giving their tech to African nations, they give it to the UN. Who, as any African who has sense, will tell you what the hell have they done to advance the continent of Africa in the decades they've allegedly been trying to do so? One of the biggest issues with African economies is the debts they owe to those Western nations. Wakanda have the most valuable mineral on Earth, vibranium. Why don't they pay off all of Africa's debt with a tiny bit of vibranium and then create a single African currency backed by vibranium, which could go against fiat money, which is what the West uses, which is backed by nothing? They would instantly turn Africa into the greatest empire the world has ever seen overnight. Think about the fact that after you pay your tickets or subscription or whatever the hell you pay to watch this film, which I view as silent pacification, most of that money goes to the very culture that has and is exploiting the African continent and continues to keep them in economic chains. Follow for information on my independent project to create genuine, authentic African heroes.